Hey, what's up? It's Nicole Brewster, also known as Coco. Thank you for tapping into the Elevate Him podcast, where we have tons of topics on how to support our men. Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for tapping into the Elevate Him podcast show. We are here tonight with a special guest, and my last guest was Johnston. So I'm glad he's here because we're going to keep amplifying our conversations because it was so good. We had a lot of information. We had a lot of perspective. We had a lot of things that we were able to talk about. So we got Johnston tonight, and we got Perryman. And I'm super excited for Sherry to be here because she is the first lady tonight. So I'm super excited to have a lady on this show. I don't feel so alone. But again, we're getting, another woman's perspective and just kind of her insight on what she does for her career. And we'll just kind of go into some different topics tonight. We don't really have anything set tonight because I loved how when I originally met Sherry, we were able to just flow. It was like I came in to just do my spill. Mm-hmm. I got to meet some people. And then we just found ourselves talking for it felt like over an hour, but just, it was just good information and just good connection. So I'm super happy to have her here. So we'll just get started. So thank you guys for tapping in. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So last time, like I said, him and I just got a chance to kind of circle a lot of different things, issues, and so I just wanted to have you kind of introduce yourself, a little bit about your background and how you guys know each other because you guys are kind of connected in the same industry. So, and just let us know about you.
Okay. I am Sherlyn Perryman, but I go by Sherry. Okay. And I have a couple of jobs.
A lot of hats.
I work.
A lot of hats.
I do. I work at the Miracles Club along with and I am the executive director there, Julia Mines. I'm her administrative assistant. Okay. So that's kind of like my day job. Mm-hmm. And then I got there actually because I was working for Bridges to Change and I was a mentor there. And when that specific facility closed, then I was looking for a position and I ended up running into Julie and we just kind of made that happen. Mm-hmm. Well, I applied for the job. Right. So I ended up there, but my passion is for people. Mm-hmm. So I also partner with Black Parent Initiative, BPI. Mm-hmm. And so I am their trauma support service person over there. So I work with a couple of the families, just kind of helping them work through trauma. Right. And that's super important because I had a lot of childhood trauma. Probably around the time that I met she didn't know. We were neighbors.
Yeah. I'm just a baby. How old was I? About 7, 8, 9, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
In the same neighborhood or
next door.
Right next door. Okay.
We shared a driveway.
Yes.
Okay.
Cherry trees and plum trees, apples.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of my background. I have 2 adult daughters. I am a grandmother of 4, and so that's my personal heartbeat. So I love my family. I'm very family oriented. Have a background of Haitian and Native American and African American, of course. Right. So that's kind of me. Born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but came here young, and so I'm kind of what you would consider a Oregon native, but I love my roots.
After so many years, it's like you're adopted.
Right.
I mean, I think now it's like you're rooted. It's a done deal.
Yeah. So I still love New Orleans, Baton Rouge. I go there as often as I can. Right. I love my heritage, my culture. So that's
on my bucket list. I want to go there.
Yes,
mine too.
Yeah,
I haven't been on a vacation yet.
You need to do that. It's called self-love.
Yeah,
yes. Right.
Hey, but I can't go too far,
Right. Yeah. Family first. Family first. Yeah. So when you're talking about the traumas, right? Because that's really important, especially with Elevate Him, kind of having these hard conversations for brave people is kind of how I want to, present it because it's very difficult not only to go through the trauma, but then to talk about the trauma. And I think we get stuck because there's a lot of healing in addressing things and talking about things. And I think for men, it's very, very hard, as we know. And so with trauma, in your kind of opinion and what you've seen and worked with, are there a lot of men that you feel are struggling with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's just as many men, but unfortunately, they're overlooked. We look at men as, we've put this stigma on them that they have to be,
Yeah,
you
tough it out.
can't cry. You're weak if you cry, or you're weak if you even talk about
Right.
it, and so that's so not true. Right. So absolutely. Absolutely.
And so with trauma, and you start to kind of, break things down, I feel very passionate to, the young generation as well, of course, because they're kind of like the next movement in. There was a lot of statistics when I was with Aj last, time we recorded, and I just read off these statistics that I personally found. And it was so crazy because it's like, even when I've shared these recently with just other men, they were like, damn, we didn't even know that. So you're giving us information on us that we didn't know. So, do you feel like it's beneficial that men kind of group or maintain relationships to be able to maybe have these outlets, or how do you see it functioning, working with what you do?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, like I have a client now that I'm working with, and we are connecting him. I don't know the name of the program, but Royal Harris is. Okay,
yeah, I just met him. Yeah.
So we're partnering with him, and he's getting just kind of getting into because he's a straight shooter,
right?
And so
and he's really about the community and pulling men and people together for the right things.
Yes. So he and I have just connected on the work level. We went to school together, so we a little bit know each other, but we're tackling that, and I'm kind of like it's new for me because I'm taking a back seat to just see somebody else navigate, and because he's a man, so he knows a man, but you also need that woman's touch. That's
sure
the
do.
detriment of the divide of the family, because you have the father that creates a certain type of structure. But then you have the mom that creates the structure with nourishing and nurturing.
Yes, yeah, and it's really sad because in a lot of these, times where we're seeing men being ripped away from that development in the home, I just feel like there's a lot of gaps in between the relationships built with kids. Yes. And like you mentioned just a little bit earlier about women coming forth. I wasn't sure how I was going to really develop my thing because I was a woman, and it's like I didn't know a lot about men, but the things that I was finding out wasn't things that took a man to tell me. It's like I just had to do the work, and then as being a woman, there was a lot of hurt that I had gone through, so I had to really heal and promote that I healed. I had to kind of lead by example, and so as I was doing my research and pulling in all this stuff, I'm like, God, guys are really hurting, and we are overlooking those things. And so you had mentioned a client that you were kind of transitioning and stuff like that. So do you feel like as a woman being in that role, it's just as impactful, if not a little bit more? Because I think when we're in these roles as serving our community, we do really get attached.
Well, that's the importance of networking and partnering together, because if I have trauma, more than likely my trauma has elevated to another area of trauma. So where your program may have helped at base level, but then I need Aj's program to come in over here where the trauma elevated, because I meet people in my life and I have different relationships and I go through other experiences where my trauma kind of is tagged along. I'll put that backpack on and I carry it with me. And let's say I get in a relationship and this person has their own set of trauma. And as a woman, we're nurturers by nature.
Right.
So we go in there, and then a lot of times we'll take on that person's trauma. So now I have this issue.
Double.
Yeah, I have that. And then now because I've dealt with this trauma, I have abandonment issues, I have trust issues. So everything that you're working with me with, I didn't even have that when I first started with you.
Right.
But now that I'm in Aj's program, he notices that, and then he's able to, work in that area. So I absolutely feel as though we've got to network better and not be afraid to let each other know, hey, there's a program over here. Or maybe my program doesn't even work for you.
Right.
You started over here, but now I'm going to pass the baton
Exactly.
to Aj and give that to you and not be so competitive.
Right.
And just say, if the focus is on the person being healed, then it doesn't matter who helps them.
Right. The more the merrier,
Yes.
right? That's
Yes.
kind of how that goes. And I feel like when I suit men, I have an intake form, and it's not invasive, it's not too personal, but I do give other options of resources.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need recovery, if you need counseling, if you need a men's group, because I feel like there's a difference between counseling and just like a non-therapeutic situation, which I've talked about that before. Sometimes non-therapeutic can just be like you're doing regular activities that actually become therapy. Like basketball, you might get together with your boys and getting that exercise, you guys chopping it up, you're out in the fresh air, you're like doing something positive, that's still therapy. Right. And so I really like to kind of find out where these guys are. And like you said, if I wasn't able to do all of that, because I'm a one person, I can't do everything, I would say, oh, you need assistance here. Boom, there you go, because we are the vessel.
Yes.
To just navigate them through that. And I really wanted to structure that enough because when guys come in looking for support, we have to come together. And I think that it's very, very important to help them through that situation, because a lot of times when they get out of, let's say, incarceration, they don't got a great grandma like you. They don't got a good mom like you. They don't have a good, girlfriend or wife backing them up on anything. They just solo dolo.
Or the parental figures that they once had when they went down to do that time or whatever was removed, have passed on.
Exactly.
They succumbed to, whatever circumstance. And so they coming back out to the precarious arms of the streets and not able to really function or even get their footage so they can become a little bit self-sufficient and sustain from that point on in a freer society. So I get it. It's a difficult task that not a lot of people are willing to tackle,
right?
Because of the work that they need to invest in it in order for it to be,
and the openness, because just like they need more people that, like you, I commend you, Aj, because you're very transparent about your past.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's what helps get people over. That's when you can get their ear. Yes. I'm in the process of writing a book called Creaky Floors.
Ooh.
And so it talks about my abuse as a kid. And the thing that I remembered most was, in there I'm saying I wasn't afraid of the dark, I wasn't afraid of this and that, but I was afraid of creaky floors because that let me know that, okay, it's not safe tonight.
Right.
And so in that, I began to write more, as I began to write, it's like it elevated.
Hey, this is a great word.
It elevated from my situation. And I began to think about, okay, what other creaky floors? And when was I a creaky floor to my kids? It may not have been to that extent, but there were things as a young mother that I didn't know to do, or I just was too busy finding myself because I had my own issues. Right. So I think that we have to get our story out. And when men step up and they say, hey, look, but then now I see you and you dressed up, you got your jewelry and your suit on, and you working a good job.
Right.
Then that gives them hope.
Absolutely. You are setting the structure that you can too, right? So let me ask you kind of a direct question. So because I'm kind of like using that vessel to where I can connect people as much as possible, like I said, if somebody needed a certain thing and I couldn't provide it myself.
Service-wise?
Right, services. How would you feel and just you can take yourself in or out of this scenario, how would you feel if you had gotten out of incarceration and you had nobody, but you were given a space that you could go, right? Men's resource, it was just dedicated to men. So you already felt like this was your space and you were getting something out of it because you saw the program, but then you were like, wow, it really comes with a lot of other things for me. How would that make you feel? Because there might be something you need and there might be something that you don't need, but to know that it's all in one, compartment.
That you have access if you do need it.
Exactly. Because you don't have outside support, let's say.
Well, I would feel very supported. I probably wouldn't have felt as overwhelmed because, I did a stint 16 and a half. Ain't no shame in my game. I'm not proud of it, no, but I respect it enough to grow from it. But if I would have had that type of support coming out of a 16 year and a half bid, I would be like, oh yeah, it's a start. It's something. And I would have been less, timid when it came to crossing the street or going to a grocery store. It's something, You don't have the right clothes. You get out, you be like, man, I don't even know how to dress anymore. I don't know how to approach a female. I don't know how to even kick it with the homies. I don't know what's appropriate for a homie hug.
Right.
You're just walking on eggshells all the way around. I don't even know if I want to deal with people, because I'm so
guarded and things, right.
But there comes a point in time where you just have to step out on faith and just keep on pursuing, just put one foot in front of the other and believe in something. But if nothing's available when you're searching for something to believe in, your chances of, adhering to the recidivism rate are high.
Right.
They're high.
Yeah.
So I would feel very, a little bit more comforted knowing that there's something out there because it's a start.
Right. And
in there, you have to start over and over and over, whether it's with relationships that you meet, somebody writing you a pen pal, whether it's with, a cellie, you have to start over, always have to start over. And you have to get out and start, for the females that don't stick or whatever, you have to start over with that too, your relationships. So it's almost like, oh, I didn't even have to initiate this one.
Right.
She getting at me,
Right. It's already provided.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's really important because I feel like when I was really doing my due diligence on, recognizing what was and what wasn't available. And it was sad to me because, as you guys know my story, and just having suicide as a part of that, it was like, man, 4 times higher than women. I don't want to see it at all, to be honest, right? Let's be honest. I don't want it to be women, children, or men. Right. But at the end of the day, when you look at the numbers that are there and men are doing it, we have to ask ourselves why. And there was something that I'm going to keep preaching this because it had hit home for me. We recognize that there's problems. And the only reason why there's a problem is because there's a lack of understanding. But once you get the understanding, you don't got problems. Right. But what happens is if you don't want to have a solution to the problem, you now become the problem. You're the reason why nothing is moving and grooving and working. Right. So I was like, well, I can't know all this stuff and keep it to myself. Right. That would be all bad. I would be a disservice. So I'm like, okay, well, I got to start somewhere to really help elevate and give resources to the best way that I can and get people to come together and show the love that we're supposed to have for one another regardless of where we are in life. So having that access to give men, being able to know somebody who might know somebody else, I mean, that's just the partnership. That's just what we do. And so there's also this thing I heard called generational curse, right? The hamster wheel. And how do you see that? As a mom and you're raising kids and, you're trying to break certain things off, that's a real thing, right?
It absolutely is a real thing. It goes back to what you said. You have to recognize it first of all.
So that term you better recognize is real.
Yeah, you better recognize. You better recognize because if you don't recognize it in you, you'll see it in your child.
Kids,
yeah,
absolutely.
You'll see it in your kids, and then you'll see it in your grandkids if they don't recognize. So that's why they say break the generational curse. Right. So, at some point, somebody has to say, you know what, this isn't healthy. It's not good. And I want better, not just for my kids. I want better for me. Because if I'm not healthy, I can't give them health.
No good to nobody else.
I'm not good to anybody else. Exactly. And one of the things that I think Aj and I touched on it at one point in the past was it would be wonderful if there could be a program for men before they were released. Right. So
we've talked about that.
6 months, 3 months ahead of time, they could know, because especially for people that have done a lot of time in there.
Yeah.
Like you said, you don't know how people dress anymore. You don't know what the slang terms are. You don't know apps. They're intimidated by computers.
Right.
They don't know how to address women.
Let's go a little deeper than that.
Go.
Say, for instance, someone they don't land themselves quite to the penitentiary in the penitentiary setting,
Okay.
but they land themselves in MCDC, just at the Justice Center or Inverness, and for a 15-day sanction or something of the sort. That's time, like we talked about before. It's restart. That's time enough for the impurities that they put into the system if they're if they're dealing with substance abuse, for them to just sober up a little bit and just implant. So you don't have to have those like programs when you're in the penitentiary for the reentry. Not restricted to that.
Right.
You can do it even just with 15 days. Let's get them ready, prepared, so when they get released, they're not going back out into the same atmosphere. I preach that over and over too.
Well, it's a matter of hopelessness too,
Right.
because if I'm in here and then what I was doing to get me in here, I considered it as survival.
Right.
You know,
In some
Three
cases,
cots.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
survival.
three meals in a cot,
So
right?
right, and so I'm released and I'm given nothing.
Right.
But the clothes that I had on when I came in.
Yeah, it's a social security card, a copy of your birth certificate, the things that you came with in a bus pass.
If you come with that, if you're
And
homeless,
some
you
don't
ain't gonna-
have that.
You ain't gonna have it on you if you're homeless. That's either lost or at a loved one's house or gone or whatever. But
Yeah.
when you come there, you start to feel a little healthier. You start to feel like, oh, I'm myself again. I got a little weight in 15 days, but whatever, you know what I mean? I got a little weight on me. My skin is clearing up. I ain't got the pick marks. Because you don't have access to, whatever caused that in the first place. So then when it's time to release, you find yourself tearing up because you're going back to the same circumstance that you was just delivered from.
Right.
Okay, you kicked and screamed and put on a good show. No, don't take me, officer. F you, this, put your hands behind your back. You be like, I don't want to. Why you doing it? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's going to help you. You're going to somewhere where you're going to be warm at night. What if when they got released, we had something, we had a building for them to go to? It doesn't have, maybe 15 days in there, 15 days at the building. Let's try to get you on your feet. Let's see if it's your season for change. Really give you a chance, You can't plant squash in the middle of winter and then, expect it to be, I guess, edible,
Right.
at the end of the winter.
Exactly.
That's out of season all the way. Let's just see if it's their season. If it's their season, we can help you. There's hope at that particular time. It may not be their season, but as long as we're doing our part, not allowing them to come back to the same circumstance of ruins, to where they have no other direction to go but.
Well, do you think that's why they're not implementing programs? Because that's the goal. Let's be honest, it's a business.
Could
So
be.
if we're talking about generational curses, it doesn't just stop with the people. It starts with the businesses too.
Yeah.
It starts with politics.
Yeah, of
Some
course.
things just haven't broke.
Of course
Some things
some do.
haven't been directed hard enough to be like, we need some change out there. We know what we want here.
Right.
And we're out here hustling and bustling and doing the work, but it's still going on in the penitentiaries. It's still going on for, politicians. It's still working for them.
Yes.
And it's
So it seems.
cracking our
Right, that
our
part.
community.
Well, so it seems. But if you look at recent details centering around the homeless, the people that are struggling with chronic homelessness, they are now getting camps to where they gather them up. It sounds kind of crazy. I know you got to start somewhere. They're getting camps to where they gather them up, the little houses that they put them in, things of that nature. I mean, they're making an effort, but it's by force. It's not a conscious effort. It's not something that I believe that they really are wanting to do.
Lifting their hand and saying,
Right.
me.
Right.
Well-
but we do have some organizations that are doing that now. But these organizations aren't receiving the funding, the appropriate funding to do it to the best of our ability. In Miracles Club, we only ask for just a little bit to help us help a great many of individuals. We're not asking for an excessive amount of funding to go buy some Benzes on the side and this
Right.
and that. But because we're not asking for that, they look at us like, skepticism. You know what I mean?
They're not doing a lot.
Right.
Another area too, though, is the mental health piece.
Yes.
Very
Because you have a lot of people, I've never seen it to this extreme before, but you have a lot of people that are dealing with mental health issues. And I think when we hear mental health, we think, oh, walking down the street talking to themselves.
Right.
Mental health comes from here to here.
Right.
So there's all levels, there's all types. It looks different to different people. And if that isn't addressed, you can put me in every program that you want,
Right.
and I'm not going to be able to handle it.
Right. And then you fail out of it.
And then I fail.
And then you lose all the benefits that came with that.
And now I'm
you're starting
blackballed
all over again.
Yeah, now I'm blackballed, and certain people
Yeah.
don't want me in their
Because you
buildings.
didn't prove them right.
Exactly.
You didn't prove them right. See, I told you if we gave them this is how they would act, but it's not necessarily. You have to equip them with the tools.
Yes.
So in that part, yes, it is designed for those that are struggling the most to fail. It is designed for that. But until you have platforms like this that can put that out there in the air, enough of them, not just 1, 2, 3, or 4. Until this is ongoing, a consistent thing, then they won't pay attention to it. They'll be like, "Oh, they're just making noise. Don't worry about it, Bill. We'll, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're just making noise. We'll get them later." And of course, the solution for any problem is within the problem. So instead of looking outside for those hand-ups, I didn't say handouts, for those hand-ups,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
We still have to address it within ourselves and not look at one another and be like, "Oh, that dude crazy as hell. Oh, hell no." Instead, we'll go the other way. You coward, you chasing after bullets, right? Gangbanging. But you look at this man that is suffering from a severe personality thought disorder, right?
Or medications have backfired
Yes.
before. I've heard that,
Right.
which was crazy because you're like, there's a lot of doctors are quick to
Oh,
give
yeah.
you a script,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because
Job security.
money,
They'll be
right?
back.
They'll be back. They gotta constantly refill.
Right.
But they say, with antidepressant stuff, you gotta wait 3 months or something to really work. But at this point, in 3 months, that's a long time to really, excuse my French, but fuck somebody up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then
it
they make you
backfire.
believe that you have to take this for life in order
Right.
to be stable.
Correct.
And then when people come to the senses and no longer want to take it, they have to cold turkey out or
Yeah.
else run the risk of succuming to normalizing, their chemistry. the
Or
way
you
that it
have
once
people
was.
that are in my field that we work with people that have childhood trauma, adulthood trauma, but we suppress it because I have to look good. I can't let anybody know what's going on with me or that I've been through anything because I want to maintain this image.
Right.
And if I show, it's a sign of weakness again.
Any
if I
signs
show
of
that,
weakness.
yes.
It's a
So
weakness.
suppressing the trauma only lasts for so long
Right.
before I have a mental breakdown. Then everybody's wondering what happened, because she had this, she had a good job, she had a nice car and a nice
Right.
house, and she
Everything.
broke. But
So-
that was because there were issues that weren't dealt with.
So I know we talked about a lot of what's going on, transpiring negatively to perpetuate the BS. What do you think some solutions are?
Yeah, let's try to.
What are some solutions?
I mean, that's what it's really about, honestly. And I think when we're all in the same field, we all want to feel like we are really contributing to a solution. It's very, very important
Right.
because we could sit here and bump gums all day, right?
Right.
But I don't want to be like those other ones.
Right.
some of
No,
those
so
organizations.
that's
Right.
why it's super, like, I didn't know how powerful a podcast would be. I didn't realize, when I envisioned what I was doing, I did see a small stage at one point, but I got sick. Like, I was like, I'm not doing that. God, you're not putting me there. But the more and more that I've gotten comfortable in addressing and talking, it's like, there's no other option.
Right.
We
Right.
got to be speaking. We got to come
Right.
forth. And this is a great place to do that and to feel safe and just vulnerable because it does show that other people will either watch or listen and it can save a life. So, yeah, let's kind of start nailing out some solutions. And it's really hard because there's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of politics sometimes involved. So it can get a little sticky, but at least kind of digesting some stuff on how to, move further in what we're doing.
Well, what would your solution be to rectify a lot of what's going on right now? Not just with our black men, but predominantly with them, but just in general.
In general.
That's a good question.
I know.
And it's, I feel like there's multiple answers. I don't feel like there's one concrete solution or way to resolve the many issues that we have.
Many years of
Many
it.
years of it, yeah. And so for me, I know with what I do, I work more with the mind and with, the thoughts and the emotions in the area that I'm in. And so one of the things that I tell people is what helped me. And that was to know that this is just an experience. you're important, and for me, I'm spiritual, so I had to take it to a spiritual level.
We just
and
passing
I felt
through.
like,
Right.
I felt like God was showing me that this experience, you're not that important, but you are.
Right.
It was for you, but it wasn't just for you. So it was so that you can have the experience and grow from it. You find out what the lesson, but you have to be totally naked and transparent with myself. I have to take and look myself in the mirror and see every flaw and not take makeup and cover over it.
Right.
Instead, get some cleansing cream. How do
it
I
off,
cleanse these
strip.
things? And sometimes scars don't go away. I have a scar that I have from an accident. You can't visually see it, but I can feel it. So I know that it's there, but nobody else knows. And when I feel it, I don't think about it until in the morning when I wash my face and I feel it and I remember the car flipping over. And so I think that's one of the things. The first step is knowing that this is an experience that I've gone through, that not only am I to grow from, but by me growing, now it's my turn to impart into somebody else. I've got to inject into you what that's why I have to be transparent with what I've been through. Because I have to let you know, I don't know, you may not be showing me. You may have a hidden scar yourself. But if I let you know, hey, I've been through X, Y, Z, whether yours was the same experience, you lost your brother, I lost the husband at 20. Pregnant and with the 1-year-old that had cerebral palsy and epilepsy. And I was told she would never walk, talk, read, or write. But my story is, if you just stay consistent, if you go to the doctors, they were telling me to put my baby in a home, in a facility. And I was like, no, I just could never do that. And I didn't know how hard the fight was going to be. I didn't know how hard therapy would be for her. I was looking at for me at first, like, oh, Lord, how can I do this? How can I work? And how can I do this? And so I began to do things to where, like, my boss told me, hey, you got to find an alternative. And it's like, I am the alternative. Her dad is dead. We don't have anybody that's going to take off from work 3 days a week, 4 hours a day to come to therapy. And so that's when I began my journey of being self-employed. And so as I began to think of things that I could do to, to make a way to feed my family, at that time, I was only surviving. I didn't know that later, and it's like God showed me that the journey that you thought was your journey,
paving the road,
was really it was your daughter's journey. So not only did I have to pass the baton to her, I had to let other parents know that had been through it. There's dads that are raising kids.
Right.
My brother raised his son. And so it's like my dad raised my brother. His mom was brutally murdered. So just letting them know that, hey, she did it and it was hard. Being honest, it was hard. I cried sometimes, but you know what? I stayed the course. Right. And so just being honest and letting your experience be an experience and not a devastation.
A
shared experience.
And
so that's what they call it now. So when I go and I talk, I don't have the clinical background, but I have the lived experience. And so that opens up doors. Yeah, it opens up doors, and people will look now and say, oh my God, you've been through that. Oh my gosh, you've gone through that. And it's like, yes.
Well, it blows them away because they look at you and be like, oh, hell no, there's no way in the world. And the way that you pose, yourself pose, you know what I mean? They're like, you been through what? You're a grandma, just.
Right.
I mean, for the record, my daughter walks, talks, graduated from high school. She's 33
Praise
years
God.
old. Yes.
That's good.
Yes. So just letting them know that you can get through it. There's another mom that has a disabled child. There's another woman that's been abused. There's a man that's been abused. And maybe if my story can help them, because one of the things that I had to accept was, okay, my mom, I had these expectations out of my little eyes, but I had to see when I got older with clearer lenses that she had her own issues. She couldn't help me because she needed help.
Right.
So,
and that's where it starts to happen. We start looking, when we kind of reflect back like, man, I wish my mom would have loved me differently, but it was like, she only knew what she knew.
Yeah, so the anger
she only
left.
loved, right. She only knew how to love how she was being loved. And so that does, again, start to slide into the generational cursing, and
Yes.
there's blessings and curses
Yes.
in that. And so, when you look at for me, the suicide, there is, like you said, this time where somebody's going through something, and then it's like there's time, and then it's suicide. It's not like I just woke up, I'm having a bad day, I'm not giving it a chance, and then I do that. There's this time, and there's this time of being able to really acknowledge where you're struggling. Every time a client calls me, I'm like, what is your need right now?
Right.
I need to know that first. What is the
Yes.
most important piece right now for you? Because I need to help you there, because sometimes that most important thing is the toughest thing.
In our line of
And
work,
then-
work, we say we need to meet the client where they're at.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
And not
very
script.
true.
Because a lot of times you'll have where you're reading like your customer service representative, and you have this script that you're going by.
Your
First, I
pitch,
need to
they
get
call
you
it
a
a
place to
pitch.
stay. First, I need to do this. But like you said, what do you need? Because I can't see your scars. What do you need?
Right.
No
And
one
the
size
great
fit
thing
all.
with that is it really puts things in perspective to where you can and can't help. And again, that we can kind of push it off and give it to somebody who can really be in that.
Right.
But what I love what you said earlier about that self-reflection and just kind of seeing your scars, and it's okay. Like, this is how you are. And to really find empowerment in that, and to find the growth and the healing that we are really more alike than we think. Like, even if it was just a little bit of your testimony, the minute you said abuse as a child, I've already experienced that. So we already related. When you've said things, it's like, oh man, like I can relate with that too. So we really have stories that are so powerful that can really help the next piece of somebody's life that they're struggling, giving them hope, giving them, a different perspective. And that's why I want to try to really build this, organization / podcast and everything else, is to, again, hard conversations for brave people, because I need to know where people are at so we can make the changes with those solutions. I'm not going to know how a man's going to be able to do certain things unless I talk to men.
Yes.
Right? So we really have to kind of unveil things. And so I think it's very important.
There's an interesting piece of that too, because there's some things that I would feel comfortable sharing with, a female. Not everything, but there's some things I would feel comfortable
If you
sharing
had
with
somebody.
y'all rather than sharing with one of my boys.
Yes.
Because I don't need, that stigma like you guys talked about. Oh, I mean, I ain't, I'm just tough.
Judgmental. Do you feel like men would be a little bit more judgmental?
A little bit more
with things?
judgmental, but
You're
only,
not there.
only to boost themselves.
But even
you know what I mean?
relating, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Even in relation, sometimes the person can be feeling or have gone through the same experience, but because they aren't ready to heal yet, because they don't want to take a look at the mirror in their self, they can't handle your truth.
Ooh, yes, yes.
It's so there's an old saying: without your plights on my shoulders, on top of my plights, without, I said, makes my plights makes my load a little lighter. You know what I mean? So if I'm not mentally already prepared to deal with my own shit, I damn for sure don't want yours piling up on there.
Right.
And
But
that's what she said.
If it's somebody that I care about, that reveres me as a leader, a soldier, whatever, head of the household, I'm still gonna welcome. Come on, just bring it. I can't let you down. I feel
Okay,
like
I have
I'm
a
going to let you
question.
down.
Do you feel like men sometimes will do that? Like you said, I'm not really ready for that.
Yeah.
But because, like, if it's your child or your mate, because I feel responsible for you, I'm your covering, then come on, I'll
Listen,
take it on.
It don't even have to be that serious of a relationship. It could
Okay.
be just somebody that I'm interested in, and she don't even notice me. And I'd be like, in the past, I'm speaking from before I moved into manhood, going through that lesson. It could be like, oh man, she bad to the bone, man, and then somebody comes over here, come on, let's go play some basketball. I really don't want to. I'm all right at it. Oh, yeah, come on, let's go. I'm gonna get the most points because I'm trying to get her attention. She's sitting in the crowd watching, so it doesn't necessarily have to. It's just a man thing, or a young man thing. Excuse me. But morphing from boyhood into stages of genuine manhood, you start learning those things, what not to do, how to do it, and finding balance in that area if you're paying attention. But nowadays you got a whole bunch of little boys banging in grown men's bodies.
That's right.
That are ready. Yeah, they're 50-something years old in the flesh, but the mind is mush because they didn't get a chance to
heal, deal. go through all of
before
it.
being
Yeah.
kidnapped and held against their will, captive against their will in confinement settings. So now, like we talked about, I think, and we often talk about, all of us, about, what do you call it? Arrested development. The time they went in, and if they get a stint, Buck Roger dates, and they coming out, you know what I mean? They're around that same mentality when it comes to the female. So that's wwhy you like rape and things of that nature are more prevalent. They went in at 17 and coming back out, and the development of a 17-year-old female these days with all the hormones that they put into the food, they're like, ooh, baby, it's bad. And then you hey man, you know how old she is, right? How old you think she is? Oh man, she grown, all this other weird stuff. You'd be like, man, I got proof she ain't. She's like 17, 16. He'd be like, man, but and be like, oh, for real? Trying to play it off, be like, oh man, he's a predator. But the circumstances bred that. So there's many different angles.
Would that be an implement too, like we said, if we're dealing with transition?
Right, right.
Could that be something that is adopted into a program that's
all of that is
works your mental, so then you don't become a 15-year-old boy in a 30-man-year-old's body getting out? Can we do that?
Well, in the penitentiary setting, they start taking all the and we call it smut mags, you know what I mean? The with the females ain't got nothing on, whatever they call porn. They start taking the porn from men and women and just letting other porn get in there. Some weirdo stuff to me, in my opinion. I was like, what is it? So people are getting out and their mind is mush. I mean, it's all a big ploy. It's by design. If you don't stay focused, or get focused while you're in a situation of confinement, then you'll come out totally messed up. And if we can get in there.
So there's no rehabilitation.
Right. If we could get in there and talk about the things that you would talk about with normal people, they deem them to be normal on the freer society. If we're allowed in there to talk with them and kind of prep them, like y'all was saying, mentally, get them prepared for life on the bricks is what they call it. When I hit the bricks, man, it's going to be on and popping. Well, we get them properly prepared for it. We don't have to worry about the recidivism rate, surfacing as high as it's been in the past few years, whatever.
Let me ask a question, because it just kind of popped in as you were saying that. When we talk about let's keep it real, let's keep it honest.
All that.
How many people do you really feel in your clients' situations are really being honest about where they are? Because it's a very scary thing, right? We can sit here and let's fake it till we make it, right? And so we really need some raw truth. So if you want to be held accountable, or you want to have responsibility, it starts with you. Like she was saying, it really has got to start with you. But if you're just like saying whatever to get by, you're not really being transparent. So how is it going to, because it's not really going to help them who are not in that state of mind. So what would be like an alternative? Because obviously it's not their season. Do we feel like they're just not ready? Maybe they'll come around later.
Because it's not their season, that means they're not going into that ground right yet. That's not the seed to be planted right now, right? Because it's not their season.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it's out of season for other things that can be planted in order to help produce the launching stages of healing with those individuals. So some of them, the hardest of the hardest, we have some of the hardest of the hardest come around us, thinking that they're just going to be on mute and shut down. And we just make them feel comfortable. You remain approachable. Let them know, regardless of what you're going through, what you've gone through, I'm not going to be judgmental. It may appear that way. And if you feel that I'm being judgmental, call me on it. And I always let my clients that I work with, I say, look, man, we here to learn from one another, teach one another. That's what we're here to do. Oh, you've never taught anybody anything? You're about to start because I need for you to find something out for me real quick, right? You know how your mama used to say, if you can't do it for yourself, baby, do it for me. Well, there's a lot of validity to that. But some people, like you said, they don't have a mother and a father. They've been on their own. So you kind of got to introduce it with humor or wherever. Find some type of common ground where they're at right there and then in that moment. And then hopefully to get them to come back.
Around.
I
usually do.
One of the things, too, that I talk with some other parents, peer parents, friends of mine, that we talk about how children, young adults need somebody that they don't want to let down.
That's right.
So even if it is a mentor, if I don't have that mother or father that is healthy enough in their own life, to where they don't care what I do. You got those kids that say, okay, I can stay out all night long because my mama don't care.
Right.
But then you got kids that say, even for kids that were like me, my mama cared. I didn't care. But there were still boundaries. I would take it right to the edge, but then I'd come back because I didn't want to disappoint her. I didn't mind upsetting her. Okay, I'm going to stay out past curfew, but I'm coming home.
But that hurts when she says, you disappointed me tonight.
Right.
It's like, ooh.
Right. So I've seen it, even being a mentor, even with going, like I say something and they have a rebuttal and then I say something else and then they got a rebuttal and then I say, you know what, I ain't even going to deal with it. And I turn around and go in my office and they come in later. It may be 4 hours later. It may be the next day. I've come to, when I worked at Bridges to Change, they would have a note on the door. I'm sorry, Miss Sherry, I was having a bad day. And, and you have to allow that.
Absolutely.
I have to allow
Like
that.
you
I
said,
can't
right
take my authority and, and now you can't have these privileges because you upset me. Then I'm playing a power trip.
Right.
I have to recognize that, okay, there's some obstacles that this person is dealing with, and I can't add to it.
That's right.
If a person has a rock, I don't want to compound and make it a mountain. So what I want to do is I want to help you chip away at it. Maybe I'm not going to be in there chiseling with you, but I'll help give you tools. Right. Okay, that rock ain't working no more. So now you need whatever the next
We'll stick this in the oven over there.
Right. To help it to turn into a pebble, something that they can see the next time and just kick over to the side. I've already dealt with that.
Right. And I think it's very helpful. And like Aj said earlier, with just feeling supported, because regardless of what background or all of that, everybody wants to feel loved and supported. Everybody.
Yes.
I mean,
everybody
that's
won't
really
tell
the
you
foundations.
that. Everybody
Right.
won't tell you
Right.
that because of that pride thing.
Right. The expectation, though, too, is crazy, because I think that's where we and again, when we're talking about solutions and being honest here, I think when we have expectations, we create our own hurt. I mean, so when you have to look at yourself like, some of us are either villains or victims, right? There's only two sides.
But there are options. We have options.
But we do have options of, are you really the victim? Because that you had an expectation, or you didn't do something that could have prevented some stuff, right? And I'm not talking about any specific thing. I'm talking generally.
Not everybody
because I
knows
know
that, though.
Right, but I don't want to be insensitive to somebody saying I was a victim.
Well, no, I'm saying no. Not everybody knows that they have options. They only feel they only have one way.
Right, and this is why community people who are out here doing the service, doing the work, seeing the problems, wanting the solutions, are willing to say, you have options, you are loved, and you are supported, and we'll get you there.
Right.
The thing is, though, you got to show up.
Right, right.
I'm not going to force feed you. God didn't do that.
Right.
God said, I'm here, and I'm going to stand here. You're over there. You have a choice. You going to walk towards me, or are you going to stay over there? And if you stay over there, that's fine, because I'm not going to come over there and grab you.
That is right.
So we got to take accountability. But I just love the idea of us getting together and really having these conversations and really putting out there that people are and can be supported.
Yeah.
Can be.
And we will give options where we can, and we can serve where we can. Speaking your truth. Telling your story, how impactful it is. I think we're really in a stage 2 right now, which is, you're seeing it more and more with like podcasts and obviously social media. People are utilizing those platforms to be heard. And TikTok, all these things. So it's great.
In the good and worst way. I mean,
right.
You have a lot of individuals right now, utilizing social media.
Being messy.
I think one of the things too is that if faith is implemented, and I know that faith for me is a spiritual thing, but we can just take the spiritual aspect out of it or the God part away for those that aren't believers.
Right.
But just say faith is just the thing that you hope for, believing in it enough even when you don't see it. The Bible says that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So I'm believing.
Say it again for the people in the back.
Faith is a substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen.
Right.
So if I have faith that when I get out of prison or when I get my children back or that I'm going to get my kids back.
A mustard seed.
Of a mustard seed. If I have that little thing, but it also says faith without works is dead. So I have to begin the process of walking even though I don't see it.
Right.
Even though the courts are saying they've already gone over there and they're fine where they're at. You're not going to get them back, but I'm still going and I'm getting a job. I'm still finding an apartment.
Putting one
I'm
foot in
still
front of the other.
moving. I'm moving. And then I go back before that judge and say, look, I've done X, Y, Z. I need my babies. Yeah, so we've got to, I think if we, even as the resource, implement faith in people. We speak it into them. And we don't have to say I'm speaking faith, but I speak hope into you. Those things that you tell me, what do you need right now? And then I say, you know what? I'm going to help you make that happen. And if I can't do it, or me helping you is even giving you to somebody else.
Absolutely.
But we have a hard time. I think that's part of the problem.
I think
is that we're not.
I think it's how it's done.
Exactly.
Because we've been doing it in such a way recently, to where people aren't having an issue with going from service to receive the services that they need. I think how it's done, I'm just not sending those people over. We don't send them over there no more. I'll be like, get in the truck. Let's go.
That's right. Yeah, we take them. We got a van just for that now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Van, the truck, we got a company
because
van,
you're their safe person. You got to remember, I'm their connection now, and they feel safe with me. They've already emptied their. I've already emptied myself out to you. I've told you exactly. So when I take you and I hand you over, like you said, and I say this is the next safe person, you know, she's okay. Then they have a little. They may be a little hesitant, but I said. I could trust him.
Well, how many times have you heard, different businesses or, organizations that they get the phone call, they might respond, okay, come in, and then there's no follow-up.
Right.
There's no I would feel like, oh yeah, there's a waiting list.
Yeah,
we get that there's a limit.
But
especially for certain
45
things.
5 minutes to 2 hours, there's someone that's
but
in
it's
pain.
just a simple, I want to follow up. I have a client that I have, I couldn't suit right away.
Right.
And so I struggled with that. Like, man, I really felt like I didn't
serve.
I failed, right? And so my wheels were turning like, no, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this. And so I still stayed in connection. I still would message him, hey, I have not forgotten about you. How are things anyway? And his responses were always like, man, thank you so much, because that makes me feel like I'm on the to-do list as far as, your service. And I was like, you are a priority, and I just wanted to let you know that. But a lot of business wouldn't do that. They would be like, oh, they didn't reach back out, or it's not a big deal, or we just don't have it right now. I'm not going to deal with it. And that's just, when you really love what you do, you got to love it all the way through. You can't do things just halfway, because then you're letting them down, because again, he could have been like, damn, she didn't call me back. She didn't let me know if she got the suit. She didn't even check on me to see if I got that job. Now, again, we're one people, right? We're just one person, happen, right? And things I can't be like cutting myself in a million pieces and being able to do so much. But that's when you start to build. I could say, if I started to get a team together, volunteers, I'd be like, hey, I need you to call all these people just to say, hey, how you doing today? Let's check on our people. And it could just be simple acts of kindness that go a long, long way. And mentally, that's where I'm at, because I don't want to see anybody feel like they weren't loved or they weren't thought about or cared about, because that's where we see suicide. There's hopelessness, like you mentioned. And those are some key words that, if we just drop the ball, then we didn't do our part. But again, they need to do theirs. And so it would connect, and we would be making those changes. So it's very, very important. And just like moving forward, I think some of my solution, I guess you would say, would be something like that. Follow through, connecting with your people, and just following through with what you promise, keeping your word, because, it's important on the street. Yeah. It's important if it came from somebody that, you trusted or whatever. You want to know their word. Well, these people are broken, and they're coming to you. Like you said, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to trust you. But you didn't keep your word. Like, I'm going to look at you some type of way now.
Not consistent.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's a solution, keeping our word and keeping in connection with people through their journey. Now, if they decide, hey, I got all I needed from you. I really appreciate your time. And you see them doing good work. Maybe once a year for their birthday, you say, hey, something. Or you just know that they're good and they'll come back if they need something.
They're going to come back to show you that they're doing good.
Exactly.
Here's the fruits of your labor.
Exactly. Or look at me now. Look what I'm doing. And that's the victory and praise.
That's right. That's payment enough.
So I think that would be a good kind of piece to solution. Because, again, we can hit a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of solutions right now that are being utilized that people have already they've dived right into it. I feel, especially at the Miracles Club and a lot of different organizations in the Elevate Him. I mean, we're kind of like, because I've sent some people to you, and they're like, oh man, I didn't even know. I appreciate you and this and that. And you called me, hey, did you send so? I was like, yeah, that's me, that's us.
And then I felt sometimes I'm like, I need to follow up with this person, because it does kind of get lost in translation sometimes. But then I can go back to him even as a partner and just saying, did you send that person? Because I just want to, yes, I did. Perfect. Now I can go and do my work. So
what I'm getting at is a lot of people look for these mountains, these houses, these blessings to come in size of buildings.
Yes.
And they don't pay attention to just those little gestures, those little deeds that we do. The interchange of services. They don't pay attention to it, and they run right by their blessing. I think we should also take notice in that, too. Because if you take notice, you take inventory at the end of the night. You don't have to do it monthly, weekly, because you might forget some things. At the end of the night, what could I have done to reach more people? How could I have done more for, other individuals that are struggling, hurting, suicidal, dealing with substance abuse, criminality? What could I have done that was more? And you'll want to top that the next day. You won't be like, damn, that's a lot of stuff I got to do. You'll just go dive right into it and start topping it. Before long, a lot of your once clients will be on the side of you.
You see a lot of that.
I see a lot.
You see people who actually go through a whole recovery program and now they're mentoring. Right? And so they can come alongside and do the work. That is correct. So that's awesome. We're going to kind of wrap this up here shortly, but I just wanted to just say if there's any last minute things you would say right now to somebody who's watching, because we're starting to kind of pick up the movement, right? People are starting to kind of catch on. Elevate Him has a podcast. I love the fact that people are coming on. I want to encourage people to come on. Women, men, all types of backgrounds, victories. I mean, even if you're in a place right now where you're feeling like, man, I just want to get this off my chest because I'm in a dark space. I think that's even, relevant when we're having conversations. So any last words for our viewer if you felt like somebody, was in a place right now?
I'll go after you.
We got to wrap this up. This is good stuff. I mean, you guys can come back a billion times because this is so good. But yeah, some words to the viewers.
A word to the viewers would be just to trust your gut, because our gut is our inner voice.
Sixth sense.
It's our sixth sense. And so that inner voice is always telling you the right thing to do. You have something else in your ear telling you something else. But trust your gut and seek out resources. Don't be afraid. Just know that there are people that, like myself, that have been through some of the same things and probably worse, and don't judge yourself.
Right.
Don't judge yourself. There's a difference between holding yourself accountable and passing judgment on yourself. And sometimes we're the worst
critics.
We
talked about that before we started the show.
So yes, just trust your gut, seek some help, and just trust the process.
Yes, that's beautiful.
Well, my last words for this show would be, if you don't want to be judged, right, become your judge. If you don't want to sit in front of a jury, become your own jury. If you don't want to be anything or have somebody else dictating whatever's going on in your life, then dictate it for yourself.
Do it for you.
So I'm actually my judge and my jury, and I'm on trial. I'm also the
prosecutor. You're all every entity, right?
Yeah, that represents myself.
Right.
What I get, what I'm talking about, you got the good and the bad. You know what I mean? let them have closing arguments. And if it goes too long, just walk on. Just keep pressing, man. Don't worry about it. But don't put yourself in a position to allow somebody exterior of self to do that for you.
Right.
And then complain about it. You know what I'm talking about? If you don't know, I mean, you're probably going to do it once or twice because that's your journey, that's your lesson. But, you know, if you commit those mistakes over and over, it becomes your fault.
Right.
So if you're tired of the judge, become the judge of yourself.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. And I would say my thing is just, you know, it's okay to not be okay. We've heard that before. Right. So I think just really addressing where you are, being transparent as much as you can because the journey is rough. No one ever said it would be easy.
Right.
And so as you start to go through your journey and your process, it's okay in the moments of where you are. But like she said, you need to also be able to have the courage, okay, and the strength to ask for help. And, you know, I just want to say to the viewers, you know, I appreciate people watching. I appreciate people being able to come here and have conversations because I do believe it is impactful, it is powerful, and, you know, everybody wants to be loved. And I think that if we demonstrate love, and I've said this before, if we don't speak love, it dies. And for me, because I'm all about people, community, you know, different nationalities, everything. I love people. And if we don't speak that love, it does die. And I just want to be encouraging for you to be brave.
Oh, good word.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tapping in. Until next time. Hey, what's up? It's Nicole Brewster, also known as Coco. Thank you for tapping into the Elevate Him podcast. Until next time.